Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We are back. We are ready to kick off 2024. It's a leap year, so it's good luck.
Yeah, and I'm Julia.
I'm Amy, and this is Women, Worth, and Weddings.
All right, so we are doing Dry January
Yes.
or Dry Forever. Not quite sure yet. We'll see what happens when we start wanting some wine again.
Yes.
This is a garden spritz, so it's got basil, cucumber, strawberry, some lemon juice, simple syrup, and sparkling mineral water.
Yeah, it's really good. It tastes like spa water, so I really like that. And I know that we get questions all the time about mocktails and what to offer. So this is a really great recipe.
Basically, any cocktail can have a mocktail version. I just had a really big wedding in November that did mocktails, like big batch mocktails, and I mean, they had like a strawberry mojito, but it was like a mocktail, and it was just, bartenders are capable.
Yeah.
They can do it.
They can do it.
They're creative.
So let's talk about the holiday season. I know that so many of our couples were with their family and their You Should crew. You should be doing what I did at my wedding.
Yeah.
And why aren't you doing that?
This, and I don't know if that's a good idea, or I don't know about that color, and they start adding some questions in your head and doubt in your head.
For sure. And we've gotten a lot of text messages and emails over the holiday season saying that my family's really stressing me out. Like, I don't know if I'm doing anything right. Like, it's making me question all my decisions. So let's dive into 2024, jumping into your planning, the do's and don'ts. So feedback from family. Look, it's your wedding. I say this all the time. You don't have to do what you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. It does not need to be scripted. Yeah. You could swing from a trapeze thing out of a tree and say I do, and that would be perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
So I just don't know why families feel like they have to it's already like a stressful situation where you're having to make all these decisions and invest money into these decisions. And I feel like unless you're contributing to the funds, then keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. I just think, sometimes it's been a while since a person actually got married. Maybe they got married, 30 years ago and stuff like that. And it's hard to understand the current world of weddings if you're not actively getting married, because trends have changed. Non-traditional weddings are in. The outlook of weddings where you actually are doing what you want to do and not what people expect of you is a big thing nowadays. And so it's kind of hard for people that are very out of touch from the industry to give proper advice. And they just annoy you.
Yeah, and I feel like I know it's done from a place of love.
Yeah, because they want to help. They're like, well, we did this. I liked it. It's always, but same thing if you're pregnant, people are going to have their
opinion on how you should raise your kids,
of what you're doing, what you're eating. So that's just family.
Yeah, for sure. So my advice to you, if you're planning your wedding and you have all this input from family, take it with a grain of salt. Use your own personal filter of what feels right to you and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you're marrying your best friend. And so that's the most important thing. It's not if Uncle Bill and Aunt Susie get to sit down and have a plated dinner.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
And, during wedding days, we say so much. What's what the bride and groom wanted? Because we get questioned all the time. They're like, why is this happening? I'm like, it's what the bride and groom wanted. Yeah. And so it's just like...
Yeah, this music has ruined the entire wedding.
Yeah. It's like, who chose this? Who chose this soundtrack? It's what the bride and groom wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's cuss words.
Yeah. It is definitely a journey, being the planner and being the ears and the sounding board for everybody involved in the wedding. I think a lot of people don't realize that your wedding planner is also the liaison for your entire wedding. Mm-hmm. Like they get asked all the questions, whether it be the bathroom needs more toilet paper, to there's no coffee, what do you mean, to my salmon's dry, too dry, to why is she playing, I don't know, whatever an artist. I can't even think of a musical artist. I almost said Little Nas. Is that a thing? No? Just just ignore me. Oh my gosh, today. Okay, so let's talk about traditions I should or I should not. So what are some traditions that are just like a lot of you're seeing, especially in the design side of what we do? What are you seeing where people are like, I know that's traditional, but I don't want to do it anymore?
Favors.
Yeah.
Favors is big.
Favors, I feel like, are my personal opinion, and I may get backlash, but I don't like favors. I think it's a complete waste of money.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people know that nowadays. I think it's just we saw too many things get thrown away where it's kind of just like, don't do it.
Yeah.
I also think plated dinners is great, but stations really are in, which is very non-traditional. Like everyone goes to all these different stations around the venue and gets different types of food. Like that can be a taco bar, that can be pasta. It's very non-traditional, but I love it. I love having the different options.
But it really like does like a mind trip on people because they're like, do the stations have to flow? Like, do I need them all to be cohesive?
I have to like go in like a circle?
No.
People don't tend to understand.
Like, it doesn't need to go together. It's not a buffet where everything needs to be like meat and like one station's vegetables and one station's potato. That's not, it's not a broken up buffet. It's like you can have a French fry bar, you can have pasta, you can have crab cakes.
Yeah, you can have like a red meat and mashed potato and rolls at that station. Like, it can literally be like completely different meals. And
it's good. I also have noticed like heavy hors d'oeuvres are big. Instead of even doing stations, is just like heavy hors d'oeuvres passed around maybe a table with like different things. And really it's more of I feel like the couples are really wanting their guests to mingle more and less of sitting down and being like, this is where you need to sit and this is when you need to get up.
This is the seating chart.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I've talked about before. People are doing more of like a social gathering where it's, stations are open, go whenever you want. Like, here's some lounge areas, here's some cocktail tables, here's some rounds or rectangles, but sit when you want. It's not like, all right, table one.
Yeah.
So, we have to be careful with that because if you just announce all at once, stations are open, that could be a mad dash.
To a station that looks like that's their favorite.
Yeah.
I think food trucks are a good option too when it comes to the gathering feel of a reception because food trucks are great. It takes time to get your food.
It does.
So
it's good.
It's good. It's fresh, and you get to walk around and mingle and be with like the guest and stuff like that. So I like those options. What else are you seeing?
Mobile bars.
Yeah,
mobile bars are in. Totally different types of ways to do that. Like old horse trailers, like old trucks, like you name it. Everything's just so non-traditional nowadays.
Yeah. I like it. I like the feel of it being what the couple wants. Now, some couples really want that tradition and they want the, 7-layered cake and all that stuff. And they want it to be this whole thing. But I feel like
also knowing your crowd.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of couples are like, look, we hear it all the time though. We hear like, we're very non-traditional, but then they start explaining their wedding. We're like, you're very traditional actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. Okay. So going into the question that I get a lot. So what I do for Juju Lee is we both do both things, but Joya leans heavy on design. I lean heavy on planning. And so people ask me all the time, where do I start? How do I start planning? What do I need to get? So we do things in like batches, I guess. We front load the wedding planning because we want you to be completely done with your wedding planning at like 4 months out. Decisions that need to be made at the end or just like have to do with your final head count.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we like to book after you book your venue is your caterer.
Yeah.
Catering's huge. So we do that. I think it
takes up a big part of your budget. And so you need to know where you're at with catering and photography and entertainment.
Yeah.
And then the smaller things like florals and rentals and, cake, photo booth, all that stuff can fill in based off of how much you spent for, your most important vendors.
Yeah.
Not most important, but it's just like the big
It's the big ticket items.
Big ticket.
Yeah. So, and that's, I mean, before you even start booking your vendors, you need to find out what your non-negotiables are. Like, what do you absolutely want, and what do you absolutely feel like you don't care about?
Yeah.
And invest that money into that. So, you know, when we're sitting down, the first planning session that we do, we call it the brain dump. So we get all of the information from you on everything that you want. It doesn't matter how crazy, how insane. We talk about where you're at in the budget, like how much do you want to spend, like where do you want to stay under, and then we introduce you to vendors that meet those criteria. So for sure. So we really try to, you know, make sure that you're on a path. That's the way my brain works. Like, I like lists. I like to know that I'm not forgetting anything. And so that's how we kind of do planning with our couples, is we give you checklists. We make sure that you're booking certain vendors when, you know, we think that it's necessary. I always think it's funny when couples, like, they book us and they're like, when can we do our cake tasting?
Yeah.
I'm like, months from now. I mean, you can do, I mean, I shouldn't say, we let them, I mean, you do what you want, but.
Yeah. And especially if you already know exactly who you want to use.
Yeah.
But it's not one of the most important.
No, it's not. So, talking about budget, so how do you, like, for me, I think it's interesting that a lot of couples start planning their wedding without even knowing who's contributing to the budget, how much they want to spend, how much they don't, like where they want to stay under. So it's super important when you're planning your wedding to know, like, who's contributing to the budget. Is it all on you and your fiance, or are moms, cousins, in-laws, like whatever?
Yeah, we definitely need to plan out what's your max. And even if you don't have a wedding planner, do some research on like what each area typically costs in your region.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, you could say my all in is 25, do no research, spend 10 grand on catering, and then be struggling for the rest.
Yeah. And I think being super realistic with your budget, and knowing that, and this is where a really good planner comes in, because if you're like, hey, Amy, my budget is $15K, that's where I want to stay under, but I want a band and I want plated and I want to get married at this certain venue, you're already busted your budget.
Yeah.
You're over budget on those three things. And so having someone to kind of guide you is super important.
Yeah.
That knows the industry and knows like vendor cost.
Yeah, because we've been doing this long enough to where we can know the range for each kind of vendor. And so that helps us when we're trying to set expectations. Like, all right, if you want a band, just know that's going to take away from rentals, or it's going to take away from, whatever, florals.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to what's your non-negotiables. What do you want to put your money towards? Is flowers really important to you? Are you a flower person? Do you want everything to be, covered in florals? Then that's going to take up a big chunk of your money.
Yeah.
Do you want plated? Do you want steak and seafood? That's going to take up a huge part of your budget. And also knowing like what you're going to have to provide for your vendors. There's things that have to be provided where it's like rentals and things like that. So there's so many details that come into play. And I know you don't know what you don't know, but that's why it's super important to have someone on your team that does know those, so that you're not surprised at the end of your wedding when you have to come up with $8,000 more because your caterer asked you to rent everything for them.
Let's go over the averages of the vendors that we get the most in our region. Like for North Carolina and South Carolina is where we do a lot of our weddings. So we can say right off the bat, most venues are around $8,000.
Yeah, $7,500 to $8,000.
Catering, I mean, most of my quotes nowadays are around $6,000-$7,000 at least grand.
At least, and that's for like 75 to 100
buffet style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have over 100 guests, say 120 to 150, then you're looking at $9,000 to $12,000 for food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it used to be like so bizarre for us to see a quote for 10 grand, and now we see it and we're like,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that makes sense for what you want.
Yeah.
Photography is kind of all over the place. It really depends on where they are located, if they're flying in, their portfolio, how long they've been in the game, what they are including in their package. Because I've seen packages up to $6,000.
Yeah. I mean, I know some photographer friends of mine that are amazing that travel all over the world, and they do great, and their packages start at 9. So it just depends on what they're offering. So
Yeah.
that's a huge. Videography again could be $6,000, $7,000, $8,000.
Yeah. Entertainment band typically can be between $4,000 to $6,000.
Sometimes, I mean, depends on the band.
Yeah. Even more.
Charleston, it could be what, like
you can probably
way up.
hit
10, 12,000.
Easily.
Yeah, easy. So, I mean, that's when people say, I want a band, I always let them know that that's going to be expensive. And if that's your sole desire, then we're going to make it happen for you. But you have to know off the bat, like, it's going to be a chunk of your money.
Yeah, definitely. What else is there? So rentals, I mean, people don't understand how much rentals cost. And I'm always the person that, like, shocks them with it because it adds up so much. And they have labor fees. Like, if you are renting a lot of items, that includes labor fees because they will come to the venue and set it up for you. And they are the ones to break it down and bring it back. They're the ones to wash the dishes. That's what the labor fee is. And delivery. And most rental companies have a minimum you have to spend with them before they will do delivery.
Yeah.
And so it is so easy to be hitting $6,000 with rentals. And that's like not me even going crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's just you getting a full tablescape and your essentials.
Yeah. Because the average linen is $22 a table, right? $20 per linen. And people were like, oh, I have my own linens.
Well, if you want to, take them to get
professionally
dry cleaned, it's going to be $60 per linen.
Yeah. So $20 for linens. I mean, it just really, really adds up. And I know, like, we may be, like, being, I mean, we're not being exaggerative. Like,
cold, hard truth.
It is. And this is how I feel. And I'm going to definitely make people mad by saying this, but having a wedding is a luxury.
Yeah. At this point in the world, it's a luxury. And it's so sad. I mean, you could do, there's ways to not spend a crazy amount if you want to do backyard wedding, if you have some family that has nice property. I mean, you're just going to be spending a lot more money on rentals, but you're going to be saving on the venue costs, of course. You can just get married in a church. You can do smaller ways and get married on the beach. But it's just the cost of vendors and the cost of the products and everything and how much you have to pay the crew. Like, everything just adds up so much. Yeah,
and we'll talk about in a couple of episodes down, we'll talk about DIY weddings and just the realistic, like, the reality of that looks like. But I mean, you have to know that it is a luxury. There are things that you have to spend money on if you want to make it a certain way, and there's things that you can't cut corners on. Bringing in your own linens.
Family, friends for vendors
is a huge no-no. And then also just, like, getting people that are not skilled in their position because you want to save money is always going to be.
If you see a drastic difference in the cost of this DJ compared to this DJ, it's experience. Same thing with bartender. We've had someone go with a different bartender, but now they are not getting the proper quality that they need for their head count, and basically everyone's going to have one drink that night because the bar is going to be slammed.
It's 200 guests with one bartender.
Yeah.
So the journey is real. But, I mean, it's just hard facts. It's wedding facts.
Yeah.
We said what we said. But anyways, it's exciting. I mean, I'm excited about the weddings we have coming up in 2024. We are almost fully booked for 2024. We're going to close the book soon, and 2025 is booking up. I mean, this is the engagement season. We've been getting a lot of inquiries. And so
2025 wedding venues are booking up. Like, they are, like, the weekends and dates that they have available are getting down pretty numbered. So
yeah.
It's crazy.
It is very crazy, but I'm excited. I'm excited. This was fun.
Yeah. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah. Let's hang out.
Okay.
All right. Well, I am really excited to do 2024 with you. I love you. And
Love
we will
you.
see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.